Beneath the surface of our oceans lies a world that was never meant to be disturbed, a realm where the rules of survival are rewritten with every meter you descend. The deeper we go, the more we realize we are not exploring, we are intruding. Humanity has mapped distant galaxies, sent rovers to Mars, and photographed black holes billions of light years away. Yet we have explored less than 5% of our own oceans. We know more about the surface of the moon than what lurks 6,000 feet beneath the waves we swim in. And what we have discovered suggests that some mysteries were better left buried in the darkness. At the surface, the ocean appears welcoming. Sunlight penetrates the water, fueling massive plankton blooms that sustain entire food chains. Fish dart through coral reefs. Whales migrate across vast distances. It's the ocean we think we know, but descend just 200 meters, and that familiarity evaporates. The light begins to fail. Colors drain away. We've crossed into the twilight zone, a massive belt of ocean stretching down to 1 kilometer in depth. Here, the sun's rays are too weak to sustain photosynthesis. The vibrant underwater forests of algae and plankton simply cease to exist. There are no plants, no foundation of green energy, only the slow, constant drift of particles falling from above, dead plankton, animal waste, the decomposing remains of creatures from the surface world. Scientists call this marine snow. To us, it looks like nothing. Insignificant specks drifting in the gloom. But to the creatures inhabiting this zone, it represents their entire food supply, their lifeline, their only hope of survival. And where there is food, life will always find a way. But not life as we understand it on the surface. The animals that have adapted to the twilight zone have evolved into some of the most bizarre forms on our planet. Many have turned completely transparent. The glass squid drifts through the water column with its internal organs barely visible, a spectral presence against the fading blue light. The glass octopus is even more extreme, nearly invisible except for its eyes, which remain the only solid opaque feature of its entire body. Why so many unrelated species independently evolve this transparency remains one of the ocean's unsolved puzzles. Some researchers believe it functions as camouflage, a way to disappear in the diminishing light where any silhouette could mean death. Others suggest it is about energy conservation. In an environment where every calorie is precious, why waste resources producing pigments that serve no survival advantage? But while some creatures chose invisibility, others took the opposite approach. They became the light. In the perpetual gloom of the twilight zone, countless species have evolved the ability to produce their own illumination through bioluminescence, a chemical reaction that generates light from living tissue. To human eyes observing from submarines, it's a dazzling display. Flashing dots in the darkness, glowing patterns pulsing in rhythm, entire bodies flickering like underwater lanterns. But down here, light isn't beautiful. It's functional. It's survival. Some predators use bioluminescence to lure unsuspecting prey. Others flash patterns to locate potential mates in the vastness. And some use light in the most counterintuitive way possible, to disappear completely. This strategy is called counter-illumination, and it is one of the most sophisticated camouflage techniques in nature. When a predator looks up from below, it can easily spot a dark silhouette against the faint glow filtering down from the surface. To avoid detection, animals like the firefly squid have evolved specialized light, producing organs called photophores, covering their undersides. These organs generate a glow that the squid carefully adjusts to perfectly match the intensity of the light from above. By producing just the right amount of illumination, the squid erases its own outline and vanishes into the background light. It's camouflage through mimicry. making light to hide in light. A biological illusion that shouldn't be possible. Other species took this deception even further. The bloody belly-comb jelly glows in deep red, a color that simply doesn't exist in these depths. Red wavelengths are the first to be absorbed by seawater, meaning at this depth, red light never penetrates. To any observer, the jelly appears completely black, invisible in the darkness, but there is a more sinister purpose to this adaptation. When the jelly consumes bioluminescent prey, those organisms continue glowing inside its stomach. Normally, this internal light would shine through the jelly's body, advertising its location to larger predators. But because the jelly's stomach tissue glows red, and red is invisible here, the consumed prey's light is completely hidden. It is not just camouflage. It is calculated concealment. A predator that has learned to hide the evidence of its kills. In this zone, everything revolves around a simple equation: who can be seen and who cannot. Every adaptation, every survival strategy comes down to manipulating light in a world where light itself is dying. But the Twilight Zone harbors secrets beyond these individual adaptations. It hosts one of the planet's greatest natural phenomena, a phenomenon that remained completely hidden from humanity until the middle of the 20th century. Each evening, as darkness falls across the surface, something extraordinary happens. Billions upon billions of creatures begin rising from the depths. Lanternfish by the trillions, squid of dozens of species, jellyfish of every size. An entire army of deep-sea life climbs toward the surface under cover of darkness to feed on the plankton blooming in the surface waters. They arrive at night, feed voraciously, and then as dawn approaches, they descend back into the depths, disappearing into the gloom before sunlight can expose them to surface predators. This vast, synchronized movement occurs every single day and night across every ocean on Earth. Scientists call it the diel vertical migration, and it represents the largest daily migration of biomass on our planet, greater in sheer numbers than all the wildebeest in Africa, all the birds in the sky, and all the insects swarming across every continent combined. Billions of tons of living creatures move up and down in perfect rhythm. The scale is staggering, and yet humanity had no idea this was happening until World War II. Naval sonar operators began detecting a mysterious layer deep underwater that appeared on their screens as a false seabed. What made it truly bizarre was that this layer moved. It rose toward the surface every night and sank back down every morning. At first, military officials thought it was a malfunction in their equipment, or worse, some kind of enemy countermeasure designed to confuse their submarines. It took years to realize the truth. That was not the ocean floor they were detecting. It was life itself, a living layer of such massive density that sonar waves bounced off it as if it were solid rock. An entire invisible world moving as one, following a rhythm that had existed long before humans ever built ships or dropped sonar into the sea. The Twilight Zone is where our understanding of ocean life begins to fracture. This is where transparency becomes armor, where creatures manufacture light specifically to disappear, where billions of animals perform a daily ballet we only discovered by accident. This is merely the threshold, the first layer of strangeness in a descent that only gets darker and more inexplicable the further down we go. Push past 1 kilometer, and the last traces of sunlight are gone forever. We have entered the Midnight Zone, a massive realm extending down to 4,000 meters. Here, there is no concept of day or night, no dawn, no dusk, only eternal, absolute darkness. Water temperatures hover barely above freezing, never rising, never warming. The pressure at these depths is crushing. hundreds of times greater than what we experience at the surface. To a human body without protection, it would be instant death. Cells would rupture, bones would compress. It seems like conditions where nothing could possibly survive. And yet, it is in this impossible environment that evolution became most creative, most extreme, most alien. Consider the dragonfish, one of the Midnight Zone's apex predators. Unlike the vast majority of deep-sea creatures that produce blue or green bioluminescence, the dragonfish evolved the ability to generate red light. In the deep ocean, red wavelengths simply do not exist. The water has absorbed them all. This means that to nearly every creature in these depths, red light is completely invisible. Their eyes never evolved to detect it because it was never present in their environment. The dragonfish essentially created a private searchlight. It illuminates its prey without revealing itself. It is hunting with a flashlight that only it can see. Even more remarkably, the dragonfish's eyes have specially adapted photoreceptors capable of detecting this hidden wavelength. It is as if this predator invented an entirely new spectrum of light that exists only for itself, and its prey never know they are being watched until it is too late. Other predators in the Midnight Zone have mastered different forms of disappearance. Some fish have evolved skin so black, so efficient at absorbing light, that it reflects less than 0.5% of any illumination that touches it. Scientists call this ultra-black pigmentation, and it is more effective than most synthetic materials designed for the same purpose. When research submarines shine their powerful spotlights directly onto these fish, the animals do not just appear dark. They nearly vanish. The eye can barely register their outline because almost no light returns. It is biological stealth technology, and we still do not fully understand the structure that makes it possible. Then there are the anglerfish, perhaps the most recognizable yet least understood creatures of the deep. The females are grotesque hunters, sporting enormous mouths filled with needle-sharp teeth angled inward so that anything entering can never escape. Dangling in front of that mouth is a luminous lure, a modified spine that glows with bioluminescent bacteria. In the absolute darkness, this light is irresistible to smaller fish and crustaceans searching desperately for food. They approach the glow, and in an instant, they are gone, swallowed whole. But the anglerfish's greatest mystery is not how it hunts. It is how it reproduces. Male anglerfish are born drastically smaller than females, weak and helpless. They have no functional digestive system. They cannot feed themselves. Their entire existence has a single purpose: find a female before they starve to death. In the vast emptiness of the Midnight Zone, where visibility is zero and encounters are rare, this seems like an impossible task. When a male finally does locate a female, he does not simply mate with her. He latches onto her body with specialized jaws and never lets go. His tissues begin to fuse with hers. His circulatory system connects to hers. Slowly, his organs degenerate and disappear. His eyes vanish. His fins shrink. His body is absorbed until he is nothing more than a parasitic appendage, a sac of reproductive tissue, permanently grafted onto the female, nourished by her blood, existing solely to fertilize her eggs when she is ready to spawn. It is one of the most extreme forms of sexual parasitism known in the animal kingdom, and it raises disturbing questions about where evolution draws the line between partnership and consumption. Not every creature in the Midnight Zone is an active predator. Some have adapted to be opportunists, scavengers living on the edge of starvation, waiting for rare windfalls from above. When a whale dies at the surface and sinks to these depths, the event is catastrophic in the truest sense. A sudden oasis in a desert of scarcity. Within hours, scavengers detect the chemical signature and begin to gather. Sharks arrive first, tearing away massive chunks of blubber. Hagfish burrow into the carcass and consume it from the inside. Amphipods swarm by the thousands, stripping soft tissue. The feeding can last for months. And when the scavengers have taken everything they can, stranger organisms move in. Zombie worms, strange segmented creatures with no mouth or digestive system, colonize the skeleton itself. They extend root-like structures into the bones, secreting acids that dissolve the mineral matrix and release the fats locked inside. These bone farms can sustain entire ecosystems for years, even decades, all from a single dead whale. In the midnight zone, death from above is the only reliable source of abundance. And yet, despite all the deep-sea expeditions, all the submersibles, and all the remotely operated vehicles we have sent down, what we actually know about this zone remains fragmentary at best. For every species that has been documented, studied, and cataloged, scientists estimate dozens more remain completely unknown to science. Every deep dive brings back creatures that have never been seen before. Fish with eyes that glow from internal bioluminescence. Predators with teeth so long they cannot fully close their mouths. Gelatinous organisms so fragile that bringing them to the surface causes them to literally disintegrate, their bodies collapsing under the change in pressure before we can even study them properly. This is the midnight zone, a world where light has become a weapon, where invisibility is the only defense, where reproduction follows rules that seem closer to horror than biology, and we have barely scratched the surface of understanding it. At 4,000 meters, we leave the open water column behind and make contact with the ocean floor. This is the abyssal plain, and it represents one of the largest habitats on Earth. These plains cover more than half of the planet's entire surface area. And yet, they are also among the least understood ecosystems we know of. There are no landmarks here, no coral reefs, no kelp forests, no underwater mountains or dramatic geological features. Just an endless, featureless desert of fine sediment stretching for thousands upon thousands of kilometers in every direction. The temperature is constant, never rising above 4 degrees Celsius. Food is extraordinarily scarce, arriving only as the slow rain of marine snow from the distant surface far above. Survival here demands adaptations unlike anywhere else on Earth. One of the most puzzling adaptations is size. Many creatures inhabiting the abyssal plains are dramatically larger than their shallow water relatives, sometimes grotesquely so. Giant isopods, crustaceans that look like massive underwater pillbugs, can grow as large as small dogs, scuttling across the sediment on dozens of legs. Amphipods, which are typically the size of a fingernail in coastal waters, can reach lengths greater than a human hand down here. Even the legendary colossal squid, one of the largest invertebrates alive, is believed to prowl these depths, its eyes the size of dinner plates, the largest eyes in the animal kingdom. Scientists have a name for this phenomenon: deep-sea gigantism. But why it occurs remains hotly debated and poorly understood. Some researchers suggest that larger body size helps conserve energy in an environment where food is desperately scarce. A larger animal has a lower metabolic rate relative to its body mass, meaning it needs less food per gram of tissue. Others propose that gigantism provides better defense against the few predators that exist at these depths, making the animals too large to be easily attacked. Still others think it is related to temperature, longevity, or oxygen levels. The truth is, we simply do not know. It is another mystery the abyss refuses to explain. Life on the abyssal plains moves slowly. Growth is slow. Reproduction is slow. Metabolism is slow. Everything operates at a pace that would seem frozen to our surface-dwelling perspective. And yet, when rare opportunities arrive, the abyss explodes with activity. When a large animal, a whale, a shark, even a large fish dies and sinks from the surface, it represents an unimaginable windfall. The carcass is detected through chemical cues that spread through the water for kilometers. Scavengers begin arriving within hours. First come the mobile predators, hagfish and sleeper sharks that can smell death from vast distances. They gorge themselves, consuming as much as possible before others arrive. Within days, the feeding frenzy intensifies. Thousands of amphipods appear seemingly from nowhere, swarming over the remains. Then come the specialists. Bone-eating worms known as ossidacs settle onto the skeleton. These worms are bizarre even by deep-sea standards. They have no mouth, no stomach, no digestive tract. Instead, they extend root-like structures into the bones. Those structures are filled with bacteria that break down the fats and oils locked inside the bone matrix, converting them into nutrients the worm can absorb. A single whale skeleton can support colonies of these worms for 20, 30, even 50 years. Entire ecosystems spring into existence around a corpse, persist for decades, and then vanish when the last nutrients are finally exhausted. In the abyss, even death becomes a commodity to be extracted slowly and completely. Other animals survive on far less dramatic meals. The vampire squid, despite having a name that suggests it is a terrifying predator, is actually a gentle scavenger. It does not hunt living prey at all. Instead, it collects drifting particles of marine snow using two long retractable filaments covered in sticky mucus. It gathers these fragments and packages them into nutrient balls that it then consumes at its leisure. Even in the oxygen-deprived waters of the abyss, it thrives, possessing blood with the highest oxygen-carrying capacity of any known cephalopod. Its biology has been fine-tuned over millions of years to extract every possible advantage from an environment that seems fundamentally hostile to complex life. In this desert of silt and silence, life does not just survive, it endures. Creatures here grow slowly, reproduce rarely, and live for extraordinary lengths of time. The Greenland shark, which frequents these depths, is believed to live over 400 years, making it the longest-lived vertebrate known to science. Individuals alive today were swimming these same waters when Shakespeare was writing his plays. Time itself seems to operate differently at these depths, measured not in years but in centuries. And yet, despite the apparent barrenness, the abyssal plains are not empty. Beneath every square meter of sediment, there are billions upon billions of microbes, bacteria and archaea recycling nutrients, breaking down organic matter, sustaining a hidden food web that we are only beginning to comprehend. These microbial communities may represent the largest reservoirs of genetic diversity on the planet, and we have sampled less than a fraction of a percent of them. The abyssal plains are a reminder of Earth's true scale. They cover more territory than all the forests, all the grasslands, all the deserts on every continent combined. And yet, they remain largely unexplored, unseen, unexplained, out of sight, out of mind, forgotten beneath miles of water. But the abyss is not the bottom. Beyond the plains lies an even more extreme frontier. The trenches are the deepest scars on Earth's surface, formed where tectonic plates collide, and one is forced beneath the other, dragging the ocean floor down into depths that seem almost incomprehensible. Here begins the Hadal Zone, named after Hades, the Greek underworld, because early oceanographers believed nothing could possibly live at such depths. The Hadal Zone starts at 6,000 meters and extends down to the deepest point known on our planet, nearly 11,000 meters below the surface. To put that in perspective, if you took Mount Everest, the tallest mountain on Earth, and dropped it into the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of the Hadal Zone, the mountain's peak would still be over a mile underwater. The scale is difficult to conceptualize. Conditions in the trenches are almost beyond the limits of what we can describe. Temperatures remain near freezing, hovering just above zero. The pressure exceeds 1,100 atmospheres, more than 16,000 pounds per square inch. To a human body, exposure to this pressure would be instantly fatal. Cells would rupture, proteins would denature, bones would shatter. It seems like an environment where life should be physically impossible. And yet, life not only survives here, it thrives in ways that continue to baffle scientists. Among the most remarkable creatures are the snailfish that inhabit the very deepest parts of the trenches. These fish are fragile-looking, gelatinous, almost translucent, with thin, delicate skin and bodies that seem too soft, too vulnerable to exist in such a hostile place. They look like they would fall apart if you touched them. And yet, they are swimming at depths where the pressure would instantly crush a human being. They are the deepest living vertebrates ever discovered, holding the record for the greatest depth at which any fish has been filmed alive. Their survival is made possible by extraordinary biochemical adaptations. Their bodies lack the rigid, dense bones that most fish possess. Instead, their skeletons are soft, cartilaginous, flexible. Their cells produce specialized molecules called piezolites that counteract the effects of extreme pressure, keeping proteins properly folded and functional, even when they should be denatured and destroyed. We still do not fully understand how these molecules work or how they evolved. But fish are not the only inhabitants of the trenches. The most abundant creatures are amphipods, small crustaceans that look like oversized shrimp. They swarm across the trench floors in staggering numbers, scavenging on whatever organic matter drifts down from above. Recent scientific expeditions collected amphipods from the deepest parts of the Mariana Trench and dissected them in the lab. What they found was disturbing. Inside the bodies of these animals, in one of the most remote, isolated places on Earth, they discovered plastic microfibers, synthetic fibers from clothing, from fishing nets, from industrial waste. Proof that human pollution has reached even the deepest point on the planet. We contaminated the Hadal Zone before we even properly explored it. Our waste reached places we have never been. Along the walls of some trenches, at depths that should be lifeless and sterile, there are hydrothermal vents. These are cracks in the Earth's crust where superheated water, sometimes exceeding 400 degrees Celsius, erupts from the seafloor, carrying with it dissolved minerals and chemicals from deep within the planet. Around these vents, life takes a form that seems utterly alien. Here, bacteria and archaea do not rely on sunlight or organic matter falling from above. They feed on the chemicals themselves: hydrogen sulfide, methane, even heavy metals dissolved in the vent fluid. Through a process called chemosynthesis, they convert these toxic compounds into energy, and entire ecosystems have evolved around them. Tube worms with no mouth and no digestive system, their bodies filled with symbiotic bacteria that provide all their nutrition. Giant clams filtering chemosynthetic microbes from the water. Blind white crabs clustering around the vents. It is a food web based entirely on chemistry, not photosynthesis. Life that exists in complete independence from the sun. These discoveries fundamentally changed our understanding of where life can exist. If organisms can thrive at the bottom of the Hadal Zone, feeding on chemicals from the Earth's interior in complete darkness under crushing pressure, then could life exist in similar environments elsewhere in the solar system? Icy moons like Europa and Enceladus are believed to harbor vast oceans beneath their frozen crusts, heated not by sunlight, but by tidal forces and radioactive decay. Could there be life in those alien seas? Life based on the same chemosynthetic principles we see in Earth's trenches? To study the Hadal Zone is not just about understanding our own planet. It is about glimpsing the possibilities of life beyond Earth. And yet, despite its importance, despite the profound questions it raises, we know almost nothing about the trenches. Fewer human beings have visited the bottom of the Mariana Trench than have walked on the surface of the moon. Every expedition that descends into the Hadal Zone returns with organisms unknown to science. Translucent sea cucumbers drift through the water like parachutes. Gelatinous blobs with no clear anatomy, no identifiable organs, no apparent structure. Microbes whose metabolisms and genetic codes remain complete mysteries. For centuries, humans imagined the deepest trenches as lifeless voids, empty, silent, graves at the bottom of the sea. What we have discovered instead is resilience. Life that bends the rules, reshapes itself, reinvents its own biology to endure pressures and conditions that should be impossible. The trenches are not voids. They are laboratories where evolution is still running experiments we can barely comprehend. For all we have seen, for all the dives we have made, and all the samples we have collected, the deep sea remains fundamentally mysterious. More than 80% of the ocean is still completely unexplored. Every expedition, every remotely operated vehicle we send down, brings back creatures that have never been seen before. Fish with transparent heads and eyes that look straight up through their skulls. Worms that glow in patterns we cannot decode. Jellyfish that violate every principle of bilateral symmetry. Creatures that force us to rewrite textbooks because they do not fit into any existing category. Even among the animals we have discovered and cataloged, profound mysteries remain. Why do so many deep-sea creatures grow to such enormous sizes? The giant isopods, the colossal squid, the massive amphipods. What evolutionary advantage does gigantism provide in the deep? We have theories, but no definitive answers. Why do others evolve to become nearly invisible, while some develop ultra-black skin that absorbs almost all light? What drives these opposite strategies? When does transparency become more advantageous than darkness? Perhaps the greatest mystery of all is bioluminescence. Nearly 3/4 of deep-sea species produce light. It is one of the most common adaptations in the ocean's depths, and yet the purposes vary wildly. Some use it for hunting, dangling glowing lures to attract prey. Others use it for hiding, matching the faint light from above to erase their silhouettes. Some flash patterns to attract mates. Others produce light simply as a defensive startle response, hoping to confuse predators long enough to escape. We still cannot fully explain how so many unrelated species independently evolved such complex chemical systems. The enzymes, the proteins, the specialized organs required to produce bioluminescence are extraordinarily intricate. How did evolution arrive at the same solution so many separate times? And why can some species produce colors of light that no other animal in their environment can even see? What possible advantage does invisible light provide? There are deeper puzzles still. Puzzles we do not even know how to properly ask yet. For now, these remain mysteries without explanation, questions without answers. And perhaps that is what makes them so powerful, so compelling. They remind us that Earth, our own planet, the world we have lived on for our entire existence as a species, still holds secrets. Vast, profound secrets hidden beneath the waves. Secrets that are worth protecting from exploitation and pollution. Secrets that are worth discovering, understanding, and preserving for future generations who will ask questions we have not even thought of yet.